Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Last night we saw the Texas Longhorns go on the road to Tuscaloosa and physically dominate the Alabama Crimson Tide. For all the years we've heard, quote unquote, Texas is back. The reason why the boys were so high in this Texas team heading into 2023 was not the flashy quarterback, was not the loaded wide receiver room. It was because along the trenches, this is the most physical team we've seen Texas in the last 10 years. And you saw that win them the game last night in Tuscaloosa. Want to break it down now. Before we do again, just want to say thank you to you guys. The support you guys have shown the boys all season really does mean a lot. Over 8,000 subscribers. Can't thank you guys enough for all the support. So one, if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. But more importantly, Texas fans, would love to hear your guys' takes in the comment section. We're going to give you some of ours, but the best part about doing this, hearing from you guys, learning from you guys. So appreciate you rocking with the boys, Dill. I'm going to kick this one off to you. Texas going on the road and beating a legitimate top 5 Alabama team. How we feeling?
I mean, the story to me has got to be that Texas defensive line and I guess front seven broadly. We've been hearing all kind of offseason and week, Alabama's going to get back to running the ball. Gigantic offensive line. Would you say they average like 340 pounds or something? And for Texas, just go up and really, I think get the better of that matchup by like a wide margin. They were rushing the passer all night. I thought Ethan Burke and Barron Sorrell did a great job pushing tackles, collapsing pockets, just making that really hard. And then the defensive tackles, again, you look at them standing up double teams, winning their pass rushes. That's just a dominant group on the inside. You just can't say enough about how good this Texas D line.
You hear all about that Alabama offensive line and the size they have. I'd like to introduce you to Tavondre Set, Byron Murphy. I mean, those guys were so good. There's so many names to shout out. The one I kind of want to go to, the whole unit, really good. I mean, you heard all week about Alabama running the football. They averaged 3.1 yards per carry last night. I mean, Texas is absolutely loaded up front. Not only talented, but deep. Dill, I'm going to shout out a name who I know this is crazy, but hey, it's instant reaction time. Anthony Hill reminds me a lot of Harold Perkins last year, right? True freshman, can do a lot of different things, blitz off the edge, spy the quarterback, drop back in coverage. Thought Anthony Hill had a phenomenal game. You take a look.
I didn't know he had that in him on the edge. I mean, he was like really getting the best of Caden Proctor, another true freshman, very highly touted coming in. But like coming off the edge, again, you just talked that Swiss Army knife role that they allowed him to play last night. He looked perfect for it, obviously chasing him down or chasing down Milrow all night. Just a true freshman coming out there and really kind of taking advantage of his moment and really putting himself on the map. At least I'm sure Texas fans all knew about him, but now the national stage knows about him too.
Yeah, we did a little freshman spotlight on him a couple months ago, and he's like showing out. Now, again, like instant reaction, what popped into my mind is this unit up front, the front seven, not only talent but depth, reminds me a lot of like the Georgia teams when they had all that depth and all that talent up front. Georgia had the star power, but what made Georgia special was how deep they were. And you saw that for Texas last night. It's like, when Tavondre Sweat and Byron Murphy need a blow, like they're bringing in guys who are big, who are physical, and were able to stop the run too. They ran like 2-3 lines of defensive linemen and all played at a high level. That's the recipe. And again, like why we're so high on this Texas team is how physical and how deep they are along the trenches.
And then you even get back that next level. I mean, we all knew Jalen Ford was great. I thought David Benda, that was a coming out party for me. I thought he looked incredible. I thought he looked fast. He looked aggressive. He was taking on blocks hard. And that was like a thing all night is like Texas linebackers, I thought, just flying around, like playing a physical game that I don't know that the Alabama linemen were always ready for, especially given how tough the defensive line was, because it just felt like they were getting to the line of scrimmage quickly and making plays around the line, especially after the first quarter, where I think Alabama did have the run game going a little bit to start the game. But by the time that game kind of wore on, I really think Texas, both the linebackers and defensive lines, really took over that football game.
Yeah, and one of the most impressive things that I don't think is talked enough about is I don't even think we saw like the true Texas pass rush, because a lot of times they're not really trying to win. They're more just trying to keep Jalen Milrow in the pocket. Imagine when you're playing like Oklahoma or some other teams with less dynamic quarterbacks, and you can say, hey, Anthony Hill or hey, Barron Sorrell or Ethan Burke, like pin your ears back and go beat that tackle. Don't worry about him scrambling out. Go get him.
You're right, because they were just running through tackles. That was pretty much their pass rush
Collapse
game.
in pockets.
That was what they were doing. They weren't like really getting on the edge hard. I mean, Anthony Hill did a little bit just because he's so fast. He's fast enough to get there quickly and not get rushed upfield and let Jalen Milroe pop out. But the other guys, yeah, you're right. Sorrell and Ethan Burke, especially, like I think they were rushing kind of with a hand tied behind their back because I think the tackles knew they weren't going to rush upfield hard. And frankly, they couldn't rush upfield hard, but they were still physically winning those battles.
Back end was solid. I mean, Alabama hit some big plays, and the one to Jermaine Burton, like you just have to kind of tip your cap to Jalen Milroe. Just hit Jermaine Burton in stride, but Ryan Watts looked good. Jalen Cataline coming over from Arkansas, a guy we talked a lot about in the offseason. Jahad Barron with the interception.
I mean, in that group, especially what caught my eye is they were tackling and they were coming up physically hard. I thought the safeties, both of them, Catalan and Thompson, were both flying up hard, making big physical contact with running backs. And that, again, it's just like a thing with Texas. You think back, like those moments where their secondary really didn't tackle, and you'd see Oklahoma wide receivers, running backs break 15 tackles on one play and take it to the house. That's not the case anymore. They come up, they all play very physical. We know they were good cover guys. They were very good cover guys last year, but just to see that physical play when they need it and pop out and just be animals. I mean, that's just like the whole mentality of this Texas team has switched. And I think the defense has been the leader of that.
Yeah. 5 years ago, this same Texas team 5 years ago on the defense side of the ball plays this Alabama team. To be frank, like Alabama's running for 350 yards, dominating the time of possession and grinding this Texas team down. That didn't happen last night. That's why we're so high in this Texas defense. You look up and down all three levels, D-line, linebacker, secondary, find me a hole. Find me a problem. Find me lack of depth. You can't. This Texas defense is really good. Now, we just spent 7 minutes gushing over the Texas defense. Let's go over the offensive side of the ball. Arguably the biggest storyline outside of that front seven just being dogs last night. Man, Quinn Ewers finally kind of on the big stage, hitting his stride, playing to his potential. He played phenomenal last night.
Yeah, and especially towards the end of that ball game where it got like important. I mean, hit some of those big throws towards the end. I mean, just the way they used Jatavian Sanders is just incredible. I want to start that and that was kind of their safety blanket last year. That was the one thing that really worked all year last year. But using that was back again as good as we've ever seen it. And frankly, the big thing was hitting the deep balls to AD
Worthy.
Yep.
Yeah, even Worthy dropped one. And one of the things I liked, and you kind of mentioned it, like when the game got tight, that was when Quinn Ewers played his best football. And like going back 5 years ago again, when like the big moments were coming, like this was a Texas team that was not playing their best football at the biggest stage. Last night, biggest stage, biggest plays of the game, Quinn Ewers, the wide receiver, stepped up. And Coach Sark, and this is, by the way, an Alabama defense that's elite. I'll ask you this. Who was the best who had the better offensive line last night?
No, I mean, Texas stood tall. They really did keep Quinn Ewers pretty fresh. I mean, yeah, Alabama is going to get some pressure. Like, that's a loaded group up front. But I thought for the most part they did a good job. And frankly, I thought Quinn Ewers looked a lot more composed in terms of how he was operating in the pocket and when he had his moments to run and when he caught that batted ball, took it for 6 yards. Like just some plays from Quinn Ewers that you didn't see last year. And we keep hearing all this, oh, he's changed his body, he's a better athlete. I think you did see an element of that. He just looked a little more athletic, a little more comfortable, and a little more smooth in the pocket in ways you didn't see last year where you saw too many sacks.
Not only like a smooth mover, but also like mentally, like not like getting the happy feet, like just stepping up, delivering strikes. I mean, he did not miss many throws last night. I think physically Quinn Ewers has changed, but I think more importantly, like his composure, his mental approach. And I'm not going to speak about him like I know him, but there's been a lot of talk about him kind of changing that element. And you certainly saw last night. And I'll tell you this Texas offensive line, if they can give Quinn Ewers time in the pocket, which they did last night against arguably the best front seven in college football, and you have Xavier Worthy, JT Sanders, AD Mitchell, Jordan Whittington, like Coach Sark is going to dial it up. This is going to be one of the most explosive. As much as we talked about the defense, this offense.
Because frankly, this Texas offense left a little meat on the bone, I thought, for the first half of the football game, honestly. And again, Ewers, I thought, played really well, but I thought he really turned it up in the second half. If he puts a whole game of that second half level he was playing at on the field. And there were a couple drops, in fairness to him, at the beginning of the game. But if he plays like that all game, like they beat this Alabama team probably 48-17 or something. I don't know. It would have gotten, I think, out of hand.
Yeah, and what I think was like not really there last night. And again, it's just because you're playing an opponent that is so good up front. The rushing attack wasn't great. You didn't have many explosive plays. CJ Baxter, Jonathan Brooks. I love that running back room. I love the offensive line.
They run hard. I'll give, like, I know that the stats won't look particularly good, but on short yardage plays in certain moments, I mean, those two run hard. They were getting first downs. Like, again, the stats were what they were, but I was like very impressed by that two-headed monster they had.
And I'll tell you what, you get to the Big 12 conference,
you just see a different level.
They gonna run right through those Big 12 defenses. Like it is a two-dimensional attack that again, you give Sark all these weapons on the offensive side of the ball. He's going to cook. The defense is elite. The coaches poll just got released. What, Texas sitting at 4 in the country? I mean, that's easily the most impressive win that we've seen, maybe barring Florida State in the neutral site. But they went on the road, night game, Tuscaloosa, beat Alabama by 2 scores. The most impressive showing that we've seen in college football yet. This Texas team really does seem to be a wagon. How good is this team, though? Is this a national championship contended team?
I mean, they can be, if they play like that, they can play with anyone in the country. It's
damn right.
Simple.
This Texas team is going to be special. Again, appreciate the Texas fans checking the boys out. We'd love to hear from you guys again in the comment section. Massive, massive win last night. The boys were fired up. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys again. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all